they just all just did the stock generic stuff, and every now and again, like somebody could do like 8 trigram 64 palms or like a rotation, but like it didn't seem. I feel like because I want to make this video like the most like the most unfortunate deaths or something like that. I haven't really gotten the title yet, but and Haku is going to be on there,
Hmm.
or like characters you would want to see like live and see what they become. Neji's
Yeah.
definitely one of them because I think he could have been a great
Yeah.
Kage candidate, and also I think he could have taken what the Hyuga style, like the gentle fist, to a completely different tier. I don't know
Yeah,
what that
because
would be,
what I
but yeah.
think with the Hyuga, they seem very much a tradition-focused family. They're not as innovative. It's more like this is what we pass down. Whereas some other clans might be more innovative in like what they do. But Neji was someone who came up with he happened to come up with the exact same things, but he did it on his own. So moving forward, you can see how he would be an innovative type of person because well, he's already been doing it to begin with.
In ways, I'm glad that Neji died for Boruto because I feel like not only does it increase his impact of his legacy being passed on through Himawari, but also we have like the novels where Mello, I don't know if you love it or know this, but this is like a beautiful story to where like every day Neji was writing in his journal about his training, about learning to be Byakugan back in like part 1 or whatever. Naruto finds that journal later on, and when he's fighting Ishiki, he's like considering the journal that Neji left behind, like the advice that Neji wrote in the journal of like how to fight efficiently with like fluid thoughts or whatever, just like Baryon mode, like the no, I forget how Karama describes it, but like just no thought.
Oh,
So
that's
in ways it's
interesting.
beautiful because it's almost like Neji defeated Ishiki in a way, even from beyond the grave.
That's interesting.
I mean,
Yeah.
the thing with Neji is like a lot of characters like Haku, Kimimaro, and so on. Nobody was sitting there like, I want Neji dead. Like everyone I know loves Neji.
Yeah.
Like he's cool. Everybody likes his character growth and so on. You don't want him to die, but his death did have an important impact in the war. So it's hard to say like he shouldn't have died. Quite frankly, out of anyone in the Konoha 12, Neji is the only person who could have had the effect that death did for Naruto, as well as Hinata. But it doesn't work the same if you throw Choji or Kiba or Tenten or anyone
Exactly.
else there. At best, maybe Lee or Shikamaru, but Shikamaru posed a problem because, well, he already had his big thing about why he needed to survive to be Naruto's advisor. So, but Shikamaru could maybe work, but like I don't know, like
They
it
already
doesn't
did
work
a
with
fake
anyone
out
else.
death with Shikamaru in the war arc. With Lee, it would hit
That
for
was
the
after.
audience,
That
but I
was
feel like
after Neji's
that's
death. So hypothetically,
fine.
if you did it before Neji's death,
Oh,
like
I
that
don't want
was
them to
Neji's
do
death,
it
just is
twice.
Shikamaru.
Oh, okay. Well, whatever. I guess that could work. I
Yeah,
definitely
like
think Neji works better
my
because of his relationship with Naruto specifically.
No, yeah, he does. He works better for a variety of reasons, but the only person I could see having like a similar close impact would be like Shikamaru, I guess, second place or Rock Lee. It does not work with any of the others, and those two I think are definitely weaker. But I could see like Rock Lee. Oh, why did you save me? You're supposed to be a Sunday ninja. It sounds so goofy. Or Shikamaru, why did you say? I don't know why he would ask Shikamaru. I don't know what Shikamaru's answer would be, but
I feel like for like Neji, I feel like a lot of the work for his character in terms of him being almost like a mentor for a lot of different characters, even like in the time slip arc in the Boruto anime, he like mentors Boruto like some words. And
yeah.
and like the story you just told me, Oodie, with Naruto, still lessons to be learned, even from like, one would imagine if it's part one, his journals from part one, child Neji or something of the sort. It's like this effort to make him like wise beyond his years. I feel like it was done post death, and I didn't really see that when he was alive, or even in part one. Like he had like some things that were driving him. He was very like thoughtful, and he explored like the depths of certain topics and whatnot. But like this whole wise beyond his years kind of like persona, I didn't really pick up on that. And I think if they established that throughout Shippuden, by the time that we got to his death, it would have hit a little bit more. That was excuse me. That was one of the main disappointments that I had with just the depiction of Neji, his character. But
Yeah.
I do like though how they kept him in mind. Post death, I do think that's
Mhm.
pretty cool. But yeah.
I definitely think Neji's impact was felt all the way through Shippuden, even if he's not relevant in it. I do agree with you. I do think we should have got more Neji in there. I don't think we needed to because he wasn't relevant for the story, and his change arc, his character arc, had concluded in part 1. They could have added on top of that, but like I said, they didn't need to. But going back to his relationship with Naruto, even if Neji's not there, it's just like his relationship with Sasuke. Naruto and Sasuke don't need to meet for that rivalry, that bond that quote unquote was severed but was never severed, to be felt. Again, just like even if he's not there. So when Naruto's
The
fighting
thing I will say though,
Kakuzu, he's thinking about
differing
Sasuke.
from Sasuke, is Sasuke was there with Naruto a lot more, and B, Sasuke was on Naruto's mind the entire time he was going. With Neji, that isn't the case. He's not there as much, and he's definitely not Naruto's mind, no offense. That's where that falls a little bit short.
Well, Neji's
by
like a
comparison.
stepping stone to Sasuke, though. He's just one of the obstacles in his path when it first comes to that. And then you get Neji's like a genius, especially coming out of the Land of Waves at the very beginning of the story. Land of Waves is more like a prologue, so this is in a way the first arc of the story, the Land of Waves. And so for Neji to be the embodiment of what a genius is supposed to be, this talented person, born gifted, going up against Naruto, the one who's supposed to be a failure. This is almost his first obstacle, his first true obstacle that Naruto specifically has to overcome. Considering Naruto never, quote unquote, like physically defeated or overcame Haku or Zabuza in a way they did that to themselves because of the embodiment of the shinobi world. This is Naruto's first step, his active change of the world itself. And I feel like that resonates and goes a long way because Naruto remains Naruto throughout the series. Naruto fails to change because Naruto's the one who changes the world. So even going into the final arc, the war arc, Naruto staying the same, that keeps that bond there that Neji established with him all the way back at the very beginning of the story. So I feel like even if Neji's not there, you can carry that forward to be, if not just as impactful, nearly just as impactful.
So I agree in terms of like the thematic behind it. I think a small thing, and let me know what you think about this. I'm gonna use Haku as actually my example. Something this goes in line with Neji being on Naruto's mind to some extent. But for example, after the Land of Waves arc, Naruto has that conversation in the forest with Haku about what true strength is. Naruto calls back to Haku when fighting Gaara. His moment of realization, like after Gaara's pushing it back, he's making Naruto question himself, doubt himself, so on about what true strength is. Fight for yourself, fight for your friends. But Naruto eventually thinks back to Haku's words, and that's like his let's say like it's like motivation move for it, but it's like somebody patting his back. I don't know what word I want to use, but like that's like the thing that pushes them forward on the right path. You theoretically could have done something kind of similar. Neji actually does this with Naruto in the fight with Kidomaru. He recalls Naruto's words to Neji, because unlike you, because unlike me, you're not a failure. And that kind of like makes Neji smile, like, I can't lose because I'm allegedly a genius, blah, blah, blah. You could have tried to do something to where Naruto thinks back to Neji in some way, or some conversation with anything. Well, actually, they do that in the anime, in the Sasuke retrieval arc, but do that a little bit more, maybe, I don't know. It's kind of hard, because on one hand, they do it, but like, I don't know when they would do that exact concept. Well, what I can say, though, is if they did do it, I think some people might feel it more when Neji kind of comes back, per se, just because to some extent, like, he never left. He never really did left, and I agree with everything you said. It might make it easier for other fans who aren't looking at it thematically, so they kind of need something more in their face to, like, it's almost like the thing we talked about with Hot Boy. You don't need a narrative analysis to know why the three Tomoe is significant. The series just made it obvious to you. Something along those lines where it's like you can't miss it because it's there.
Well, when it comes to like Neji's character, and I do agree with you, Oodie, with what you were saying, where he's like this genius, and kind of like the first. I'm probably just saying this in my own words, but let me know if I was correct in what you said. Like he's like kind of like the first genius obstacle that Naruto has to overcome, to a degree. I will say I agree with that. I want to give Kiba his flowers though, because although I do clown on him often, he was depicted as someone that at the very least was above Naruto in terms of like who was expected to win that fight. And when I think about milestone moments for Naruto, where he clearly just gets this amp or levels up in either mentally or physically, it's definitely through that Kiba fight. I think they even say like he's like, I think I've gotten stronger like after the fight. So I always think of that Kiba fight as like a milestone moment where he has to overcome this person who has like expectations and clout attached to their names, that being Kiba. And then of course it's like a death spiral for Kiba's character post that fight for some reason. But yeah, in terms of like Neji though, I do think he could have been relevant in the Shippuden series. I think the stuff with Itachi, obviously you would have to write it a little bit differently. I think when Itachi has to kind of like bring Naruto back and remind him about like, who can become Hokage, or those who do become Hokage, right? After their battle with the Nagato and they seal him up with Tosuka Blade. I think a conversation like that coming from Neji would have been fantastic. How you would write that, when that would be inserted, I think that's maybe something interesting to take into consideration. And then also, I think it would have been pretty cool to have maybe, instead of like the interaction between Sakura and Sasuke, have that be Neji and Sasuke, to where Neji feels so indebted to Naruto that he wants to try to help Sasuke in his stead. And he maybe feels like, hey, like I'm going to like relieve this burden from Naruto, whatever the case may be. Of course, you're gonna have to like finagle that writing as well, and it does take some characterization from Sakura and stuff like that. But and maybe not at that specific moment in this story, but I do think an interaction between Neji and Shippuden and Sasuke around that time frame, even if it was Hebi Sasuke, that would have been like a marquee match everyone was waiting for, and it would have been like a big payoff. And then also there's like narrative reasons why Neji would want to do that. But yeah, there's some interesting things I think Neji could have done throughout Shippuden.
So on one hand, I agree that Neji, if not Itachi, Neji, ironically, it might be one of the best people to give Naruto those words of wisdom about what a Hokage is. The only thing I will say though is, I do think what Itachi needs to say to Naruto at some point, because unless you want to rewrite the final battle's purpose, the final battle is essentially a debate over Itachi in one way. It's Itachi's words versus Itachi's life, according to Sasuke. They're essentially arguing what a shinobi and Hokage is based on Itachi to some extent. And so that doesn't work. You could just have Naruto say, oh, this is what Neji said. But I like the idea of them contrasting their opinion on Itachi and basically fighting to prove their stance.
If we were to do a
Neji versus Sasuke at any point, though, is cool.
If we were to do a small rewrite with Neji, just ways to incorporate him more, I think if you were to add one additional arc to Naruto, it would be between Land of Waves and the Chunin exams. What that is specifically, it doesn't necessarily matter. You could have it them going to the Uzumaki background place that got destroyed, or them going just on a separate mission. It doesn't necessarily matter. The point is how you incorporate the characters and why. I think if they had an arc here to where they incorporated Neji's introduction, especially with Sasuke, almost in the same way of what Rock Lee does at the start of the Chunin exams, where he's interested in Sasuke but not Naruto, you could have Sasuke versus Neji here, which I think is important to have before Naruto versus Neji rather than after, as well as a great deal of time separating the two, considering if Neji loses twice in a row, that's just going to look bad for his character.
No, Neji should beat Sasuke if you're going that route, because
I was going to
go... First of all, the plot-wise, that only makes sense the way the plot was written. But second, that, for one thing, the contrast, Sasuke lost to Neji, Naruto beat Neji. That's another big point to make, just like the Gaara situation. Sasuke lost, Naruto won. So you're kind of going on that.
I was going to have it either be that or a stepping stone. Go ahead.
Neji should beat Sasuke in this like rewrite?
I would have, if it's a part one, I would have Neji beat Sasuke for sure.
Oh yeah, part one. Okay, I thought you
if it's part two, it really depends on A, when, and B, what you're going for with the fight specifically. You could also have that one even be a stalemate as well. It depends on what you're going for. But part one, I feel like for Sasuke's character, as well as Neji's, honestly, I just feel like Neji should win, especially if this is before Naruto beats Neji. Because Neji needs to be unbeatable essentially, and Sasuke needs to be losing to make him like mad.
Yeah.
So
No, I think that works for part one. For part two, if they had like some encounter, I think there's no circumstance in which Sasuke should lose. But I do think maybe a cool way for Neji to lose would be the fight kind of goes back and forth, and it's clear that Neji has the victory. But in order to win, he has to do something that the old him would have done, but like the current him isn't willing to do because of the influence from Naruto. And it's because of Naruto's influence that he just doesn't do what he needs to do, and then Sasuke defeats him and calls him weak as a result of that. So like Sasuke's resolve kind of like goes beyond Neji, which will be working narratively because Neji's not the one that's supposed to, conquer Sasuke's like, beliefs and his approach. Is supposed to be Naruto. But in that moment, maybe Neji realizes the folly of his decision to try to take the burden from Naruto, and that, hey, I'm not the one that can save Sasuke, right? So it's like he
yeah, something
tried to help his friend, but like he realizes his own mistakes in the course of that battle. So in that defeat, you also like showcase Neji. You're like, yo, he's very powerful. He would have won, but he's not the guy to help that guy. It's Naruto, and now he realizes that, so he kind of backs off, and maybe like Naruto or Kakashi show up depending on when it happens. But yeah, I think
yeah,
that'd be
and
cool.
I like this idea, this concept tying into Naruto's point, like when he's talking to the Konoha 12, like we can't beat Sasuke like just by being strong. That's not the point. We have to overcome his hatred. And Neji, I will admit one slight potential problem, but I think it works with the mindset you approach. But Neji wouldn't have fully gotten that yet. He'd be like, well, I think I can reason with him. Like, I can relate to him. And he'd find out that, like, there is a gap between him and Sasuke, like, as people. And while there are things Neji can relate to, he doesn't fully understand Sasuke, and he's not able to bridge that gap. And he's not able to become his teacher. And he realized, like, Naruto, I am gonna leave it to you. You are the. It's similar to Gaara. Gaara tries to do basically the same thing, and he kind of comes to realize, like, I can't be the one to do this. Even though, like, I have a similar backstory, kind of, not quite, but like, I felt
Yeah.
that same pain. I don't understand you enough. So Naruto has to be the one, kind of thing. You could play with that.
I think it works well with Neji with the loss of his father. Like there could be a scene where Sasuke brings that up, like what do you know, or blah blah blah. He's like, I know more than you think, right? And then you can even tie like the abilities of the Byakugan to see through people, and then tie it into like some kind of narrative, in some kind of narrative way to like bring it all home. Like, hey, like I can see through like this illusion that you're putting out there, Sasuke. I can actually see at the foundation of everything that you're doing is this like profound despair and sadness, right? Like when I get past all the anger, so like he's not literally seeing it, but then it bleeds over into like the Byakugan's abilities. So I think a lot of that stuff could be like really poetic and cool. I
I
don't know,
think
like
I have
maybe a
another
missed
one.
opportunity.
Another
Yeah.
one. Okay, this is a little bit goofy, I'll admit, but it is a hell of a callback. Okay, so
Mhm.
imagine Sasuke says something like, "You don't know what it's like to lose like your family or whatever," and then literally Neji copies Naruto's words. Like when he's like, Neji's like, "You don't know what it's like to be branded with a mark that sets you apart," blah blah blah, and Naruto's like, "Yeah, I know what that feels like." Well, big deal. Like Neji just like word for
Neji
word
would never
copies
say that.
Nah,
It's
I
so
mean,
goofy.
there's so many
That's a
ways you can go
callback.
about it that I think could be really cool. And just the fact that we can have this conversation, I think there was maybe a missed opportunity there. If
Yeah.
anything, there are those filler episodes in the anime where you kind of see like, what if Minato didn't die? And like how, Naruto and Sasuke still had their conflict. He was trained by Shisui, that being Sasuke. I think maybe it would have been cool to see like an episode where that did happen between Neji, and Neji was a little bit more prominently featured. You get those like thematic, like those poetic thematic kind of concepts. But yeah,
I think
maybe.
another, if you're gonna look at spots where you can incorporate Neji, um, in Shippuden anyway, you could do before the pain arc. After the pain arc is a little tricky. I don't know if it feels a little odd. I mean, you could probably make it work, but to fit it before the 5 Kage summit, because Sasuke's already attacked B by this point, so like the 5 card is supposed to happen. So I feel like it'd probably be safer to do it before the pain arc. You have an arc that just has Neji a lot more focused in it. You could even do just like Shikamaru getting a Shikamaru arc. You could give Neji another Neji arc. As for what that's going to be, I don't know. But you could have an arc where Neji is very prominent in it. I guess you would either do right before Sasuke kills Orochimaru and so on, or do it after like the Itachi fight in between. I'm not sure. You have to really depends on what you're going for. But I mean, there are other Akatsuki members like you could have just used for these purposes that, if you want to space things out. Granted, I don't want to lose Sasuke versus Data, but like Neji versus Data would be hilarious.
It wouldn't do
That
much
would
for
be
Neji's
an
character to give him
interesting
something
fight.
like that, though. It'd almost be like he just is there. I do think, because I've been thinking about it for a while since y'all been talking. It's my turn now, so if you don't want to add an arc at the beginning of Naruto, if you just want to keep it the way it is, what you could do is you could just foreshadow the Sasuke versus Neji, as I already did in the Forest of Death, but you could add it earlier to where when Lee comes, Lee's introduction to fight Sasuke and Naruto, you just have Neji there as well. In fact, maybe Lee fights Naruto there while Sasuke fights Neji just for the moment before that guy shows up.
There already kind of is that foreshadowing because like right before that, Neji's like talking to Sasuke in Tenten's thinking, I wonder who would win in the fight. And then after Lee beats up Sasuke, Lee points out like there's another person that I'm actually trying to fight. He's the top rookie. And then he thinks about Neji. So there already is kind of like a little bit of that.
So I'm just adding on top of that, but then you get to the prelims. This is where I think it's the most interesting. Because obviously Sasuke would have lost against Neji at the beginning of this arc. So here at the prelims, after he gets his curse mark, remove Yoroi entirely. Just have it be the full, like, official hype Sasuke versus Neji match that people expect from the tuning exams.
But then Neji wins.
So the thing this would remove Neji versus Hinata. We're not going to do that. What we're going to have doing is because Sasuke uses his curse mark, just like the original, he like kind of passes out, but like the match is just going to end in a similar way to where like in that one OVA Naruto versus Konohamaru tuning exams, Naruto uses Sage mode.
So we actually do the DQ. So instead of Sasuke overcoming it, like Sasuke just succumbs to it. Maybe we make it a thing to where Sasuke can't win without using it, and he uses it, which makes Orochimaru happy or something, and then they disqualify him. And Kakashi,
I was gonna have Kakashi say, since he already basically says this, don't use your curse mark. In this case, he's gonna say, if you use it, I'm gonna stop the match because you'll die or something. And so in this case, Kakashi steps in, stops Sasuke, and then takes him to this Orochimaru layer to go seal it. You know how it goes from there. But in this case, Neji doesn't win or lose, and Neji still has to fight another match. In this case, it's going to be Hinata, as usual. This case...
So while I agree with you, Neji doesn't really win or lose in that case. It depends on how early they do it, because there's a very decent chance they would just, in story, just give Neji the win, because that's exactly what they do with, like, Kankuro forfeits, or Sasuke's going to be late. Oh, Gaara just wins. So... I could see them doing that.
No, for Naruto and Sasuke's rivalship, I would definitely like it if Neji's beating Sasuke, but then Sasuke uses curse mark, and then they're even for the moment before the match is disqualified. Because Neji is a stepping stone to Sasuke, just as Gaara is. It's Neji, then Gaara, then Sasuke, at least in part 1. And that's consistent when you look at the tuning exams. You have Neji versus Naruto, or Naruto versus Neji, and then Naruto versus Gaara, and then you compare that narratively, story-wise, to Naruto versus Sasuke, where that would be, because you have Sasuke versus Gaara twice, especially with the curse mark. So it's very interesting to compare it that way.
Where's the second? Where's the first Sasuke versus Gaara?
In the tuning exams, and then it's in Konoha Crush.
But he got disqualified fighting Neji. He's out.
No, we're just gonna have him move on to fight anyways. Because you can't just take that out.
Also,
no, you can't.
There's no Chidori either, because like he wouldn't copy Rock Lee's speed, so you wouldn't have like a foundation to train. So like Sasuke would be like, I feel maybe weaker, but you can always like write it.
Yeah, exactly. I already thought about that.
You
just have Gaara versus Lee first. You just have Gaara versus Lee first. You would copy it there.
That works.
Which I think is also just better because it's closer to when he actually uses it later on. So
Do you think curse mark? This is just an aside from like the narrative stuff. Do you think Neji would have lost to curse mark Sasuke in the Forest of Death?
I'm glad you brought that up, because what I was about to say actually is one thing you could have done. This will take away from, well, you could still have Sakura stop Sasuke anyway. I was gonna say you could have had to where Sasuke is going on a rampage and Neji decides to stop him because he just thinks that's the right. He's like, oh, I don't want Sasuke to be a killer. Let me stop him. Whatever. Doesn't really matter. The point is, you could have them actually just fight. Neji was keeping up with, Kurama Chakra